you can take it on Zoom, okay? All right. We are live on Instagram. Yes. When life throws you lemons, you make lemonade. All right. I'm going to, everyone, welcome to our masterclass, the I Don't Feel Good Enough MastHERClass. And this wasn't done on purpose, but y'all know what? Today is International Women's Day. So this is amazing. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm gonna let people get in, all three of you. I'm live on my iPad. Music is playing. So I'm gonna try and set this up in a way that I can see my notes. Okay. And make sure everything is going on. Happy International Women's Day, Sharon. Okay. I'm trying to make sure that this works. But I hope everyone had a blessed day. I'm going to give it one more minute before I start. Okay, so everybody, this was supposed to be something that we were going to do live. We were going to do on Zoom, but I think this is God telling me to do it on the live anyway, because I wanted to start teaching more Instagram. I wanted to start teaching more about master classes on Instagram Live anyway. For those of you who don't know, my name is Maria I. Melendez. I like to tell people Maria I, soon to be last name, because we call those things into existence, right? But I am the founder and CEO of Embrace Her Legacy. If you don't know us and if you don't know who we are, you definitely should check the link in our bio. But we are a nonprofit personal development organization, and what we do is we equip women and girls with the tools, millennial women and girls of color specifically, with the tools needed to overcome internal and external challenges and fulfilling a purpose-driven legacy. How do we do that? We do that through some amazing, extensive, transformative personal development, social, emotional development, and leadership development workshops, programs, and coaching. We've impacted about 15,000 women and girls nationwide, worldwide, through our social media, podcast programs, and things of that nature. Our lead program, which is our flagship Embrace Her Legacy Academy, offered to young women ages 14 to 19, nationwide, virtually, and then locally in the New York City area. We just opened applications for our 2023 Summer Institute, which will be back in person. Thank you, God, when we do it. And that those applications, you can find more about that on our link in our bio. So today, what I'm going to be teaching on is really feeling good enough, and feeling, so many of us deal with those feelings of not feeling good enough. This is our first installment of the Embrace Her Legacy Inner Saboteur University. The Inner Saboteur is that voice that lives on the inside of each and every one of us, telling us who we can't be, what we can't do. Everybody's inner saboteur manifests itself in whichever way at the most inconvenient time. Some people, my inner saboteur, love to tell me, you from the projects, you from the hood, you can't do what you have been called and created to do. There's no way people like you make it to the CEO level. There's no way people like you make it to the C-suite. You understand what I'm saying? Some people's inner saboteur comes and manifests itself as low self-esteem, low self-worth, fear, doubt, anxiety, and fear is such a tricky little one. I'm actually going to do a whole Inner Saboteur on fear and doubt. Inner Saboteur University Masterclass on fear and doubt soon. But your inner saboteur is that negative voice that lives on the inside of each and every one of you, each and every one of us, and it manifests itself as whatever it needs to manifest itself for you, so that you do not achieve what it is that you were created to achieve. So I'm gonna jump right into this teaching, and like I said, tonight we're gonna be talking about the inner saboteur of not feeling good enough. The inner saboteur of not feeling good enough. And for those of you who want to know a little bit more about me, you can definitely follow my personal page. I am Maria Melendez. First and foremost, I like to tell people I'm a child of God, okay? I love God, I love Jesus. That's first and foremost. And God has anointed me with this gift of Embrace Her Legacy. I like to consider myself an inspirational homegirl. I've been doing this work for over a decade now. We have had over 150 young women participate from our programs. I'm a speaker, a coach, mentor, all those jazz. But essentially what I do, to be honest, I've given my life in service to women and girls. I answered the call quite some time ago after resigning from my high-profile job in the music business to really focus on what I believe was my call, and that's part of it is to definitely do some work around women and girls and really helping being a light in a dark place. I think that, a lot of times, darkness tries to take our women and girls and our men, everybody. But, definitely there's so much coming up against our young women and girls. And I believe part of my purpose is to shine a light, to bring healing, to bring transformation into the lives of young women. And, so many people who sit in our classes always say to me, Maria, if I had this when I was a teenager, so the many mistakes and so much pain that I could avoid, essentially I try to just give back and heal the 17-year-old girl inside of me. And that's what I do. And I'm grateful to God that I could do it very, very well. And that's my gift. So into the teaching, right? The masterclass of I Don't Feel Good Enough. So I didn't come up with this, just to give you guys context, I didn't come up with this masterclass topic. Our audience did. At the top of the year, I knew I wanted to do master classes on specific inner saboteurs that I know a lot of people deal with. So this one is I Don't Feel Good Enough. Another one we're going to do is called the inner saboteur of guilt and shame. I know a lot of people deal with that. And then the inner saboteur of fear and doubt. And that came from you guys, I was like, well, let the people tell me what it is that they struggle with the most. And this one came up quite frequently when we ran the poll. And the feelings of not feeling good enough or feeling inadequate hit us all. But I really want us to do a deep dive on what it means to not feel good enough. So I want to actually look at the definition. The definition of enough means occurring in such quantity, quality, or scope as to fully meet the demands, needs, or expectations of something, adequate for the want or need, sufficient for the purpose or to satisfy desires. Good enough means adequately good for the circumstances, and good means have a favorable character or just tendency to be desired or approved of, having the qualities required for a particular role. That's what it means to feel enough, to feel good enough, right? Now, what does it mean to feel the opposite of that, or something called the antonyms of that? And this is something that I've learned from someone I follow, and a woman, a teacher that I follow. And when you're feeling something and you're like, okay, this is how I feel. If you don't feel good or you feel good enough, you want to look at the opposite of what that means. So if you're not feeling good enough, what you're feeling is you feel inadequate, you feel insufficient, you feel lacking, you feel unsuitable, you feel unacceptable, you feel unsatisfactory, and you feel unpleasant. So that's what it means to not feel good enough, and we want to deal with that. So as we deal with that, I want people to watching this, like, before we go into the steps of how do I start feeling good enough, I want everybody to sit back and think about, ask yourself this question: who are you? Sometimes when you don't know who you are, of course, you're not going to feel good enough because you don't know who you are. And sometimes, and when I'm teaching this, I tell people it's okay to not know who you are. If you don't know who you are and then you go trying to be like other people, of course you're not going to feel good enough because you're not rooted in who you really are and who it is that you have been called and created to be. So that's the first thing. You want to ask yourself who you are. And if you don't know, then that's the first homework assignment. is you want to go on a journey to discover who you are, who you're not, what your talents is, what your strengths are, things like that. Take different assessments. I love Gallup's core strengths as finders assessment, you know, to really start to identify who it is that you are and what it is that you do and what it is that you do well, right? And another question that you want to ask for yourself is, do I even like who I am? Do I even like who I am? We talk about loving ourselves, and especially as International Women's Day, a lot of people talk about loving themselves. But how can you love yourself if you don't like yourself, right? So that's another question you want to ask yourself. Who am I? And who do I really like who I am? And if you don't like the answers to the questions, well, baby, it's time to get to work and time to start to do some healing, right? Because you were created beautifully and wonderfully in the image of God. So you want to make sure that you are going to work on these things. So to get you started, let's talk about who you are not, right? Who you are not, who you are not. I learned who I wasn't before I learned who I was, right? So let's talk about who you're not. You're not your current circumstances. You are not damaged goods. You are not your mistakes. You are not your environment. You are not forgotten. You are not your pain. You are not what other people say about you. Lo and behold, you are not your family trauma. You are not the labels people have given you. You are not your family drama. You are not your family drama. A little bit of who you really are. You are loved. You are worthy. You are never alone. You are created in the image of greatness. You belong. You're wealthy. You're powerful. You're beautiful. You're in charge. You're perfectly imperfect with a bright future. You are capable. You are unique. You are smart. You are accepted. You are approved. You are fully potential. You are created with purpose, gifted and talented, and a part of my dream and destiny. And I want you to tell you something. I texted this to someone earlier today because, you know, he asked me how I was doing, and I wrote out what I was doing, how I was doing, and I said, I am, and he was like, oh, I love it. And I said, remember the words I am. I want y'all to remember this. The words I am literally means, and it happened, and it came to pass. One of the things I am a stickler about, if you ever say you are broke around me, I will automatically correct you. Because when you say I am, I can't even say those words out my mouth. You are literally claiming that to come to pass and that to continuously happen to you, right? Your words have such a creative power that your words you don't even understand the way you bless and you curse your own self with your words. So when I like to say people in their affirmations and things like that, I want you to always remember this. If you take nothing else from this masterclass, is that those words I am literally translate to, and it came to pass. And it happened. So if you want to be careful about what you use after those words. If you keep professing that you're broke, that you are lonely, that you are unattractive, that you are unlovable, that you are difficult to deal with, whatever, you are literally just saying, and that came to pass, and that happened, and that came to pass, and that happened. So that's why around me, when people say that I can't even say, when people say that they are broke, I can't even say it over my life because I refuse to. When people say that, I immediately correct them, and I'm like, is that what you want to come to pass? And you ever look up the word broken or broke? Do you want to be broke? Like, do you want to be someone who is broken? Do you want to be someone who's broke? No, I don't think anybody wants to walk around and being someone who's actually broke. So be careful about the words that you are using to speak over your life. And that does not mean that you do not assess the situation. Like, listen, I'm going through, you know what? I'm just going through. Thing didn't pour. Am I back? Can y'all hear me? Isabel, I know you're here. Let me know if you can still hear me. But you never want to come into agreement with something that you don't want to see come to pass, you know? You don't ever have to say, this is what, you know, you explain to people, yeah, I'm going through something, but I'm coming out of this. Yeah, I'm going through financial challenges, but it's not always going to be like this, you know? So, how you doing, Maria? Lately, people ask me how I'm doing. I'm like, it is well. Everything is well. All is well. It's well. And while things I may be challenged with certain things. I cannot keep speaking the challenge because that's the only thing that's gonna keep manifest itself. And don't get me wrong, you feel like you feel stupid. Like I am Afro-Latina, you feel like a pendeja. That's what I like to say. You feel like a dumb idiot where you see your bank account and you are like, everything is not well. I do feel like I don't have this, right? But those things, you get what I'm saying? Like, oh, thank you, Sharon. Those things, when you say I am, when you come into agreement with those words, you feel stupid. You're like, oh my gosh, like, I don't really, things are bad. Things are happening. I can't say that things are good because things are actually bad. And I'm like, now that doesn't mean that you negate what's happening in your life right now. But what I do say is that you have the power in your words and in your tongue to speak over it. Yes, to assess it, but also to come into agreement with something else, right? And that's the power of this tongue. So that's why I say, be careful of assessing who you are. And as you start to discover who you are, I want you to be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself as you discover who you are if you don't feel good enough. You know, that's actually, a lot of us deal with that more than we think. And I don't want you to feel like you are alone. If you are someone who feels like you don't feel like you're good enough or you're not enough, trust and believe. Let me tell you, there's not a human being on this earth that feels adequate and capable 100% of the time, all of the time. I don't care if it's the big hot shot CEO that you work for. I don't care if it's, you know, the person in your class who's always gotten straight A's and she's been a valedictorian her whole life. Everybody's challenged with someone for some area of their life. And let me tell you, one person can be gifted in one area, right? So you may feel super, super confident in the area of cooking, right? You like, listen, I can cook. My desserts are off the hook. And then someone else may not feel confident in that area, but then someone else will maybe be confident in the area of mathematics, right? And they may not be so confident in cooking. So you want to make sure that you be kind to yourself as you learn to discover who you are, because the most important relationship that you can have is the one that you have with yourself, right? We have people that love us. And I want you to take a moment and think about the people that love you and how they make you feel. You know, a person that you love and how you treat this person. And then I also want you to think about someone who has hurt your feelings or made you feel bad about yourself before. These are three different characters that I want you to, three different people that I want you to think about. And then I want you to now think about, so there is this show, and I'm going off my notes, which were really tailored for Zoom, so bear with me here. So there's this show I used to watch, RuPaul's Drag Race, and the little show ends with, if you can't love yourself, how in the hell are you gonna love anybody else, you know? And I think oftentimes a lot of us want to love other people. And one thing I've learned I've learned a lot in my almost 38 years on this planet. But one thing I've learned in these past couple of years is so many people want love, but they don't know how to love themselves, or they don't know how to receive love. If you don't know how to love yourself and you're highly critical of yourself, then it's going to be hard for you to even receive love. And it's going to be hard for you to love others, right? So the end of the show ends with, if you can't love yourself, how in the hell are you going to love anybody else? And so many of us, there's so much emphasis in life, especially in this world of social media, where, gosh, my prayer is that people stop listening to everything they see and hear on social media. And that's such a contradiction, because I know I'm on social media now, but my God, people get on social media and just follow trends. And I'm like, y'all don't have minds of your own, but that's a whole nother thing. But in this area of social media where it's very popular to dismiss it, oh, if it doesn't serve me, I'm moving on. And that doesn't, what I'm saying, I'm gonna preface this with saying, like, there are times where you have to chuck the deuces to certain things because the season is up. But there's so much emphasis on leaving things that don't serve you, or somebody, you know, oversteps your boundaries, or bullies you, or has something crazy to say about you or to you, you know, let them go, or, you know, move on, get the step and cut those people out your life. But baby, I realized that, you know, the worst enemy that we have don't be other people, it be ourselves. Like, if we put a megaphone to how we talk to ourselves, baby, you would see that you your own worst enemy. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, your haters don't talk to some of us. For some of us, and this is not for everyone, for some of us, the haters are the people on social media don't talk to you the way you talk to yourself, right? Sometimes the greatest bully we have live on the inside of us, and let me tell you, so sneaky. And this is a voice that speaks to you, and you listen to yourself. So you know what I'm saying? Your inner saboteur will tell you anything. Like if you mess up, you make a mistake, it's like, oh, that's why you stupid. That's why you can never get anything done right. Look at you. You thought you was really gonna get that job. Look, they rejected you. You thought you was really gonna start that business. Look, nobody showed up. You understand? You scroll on IG, it's like, oh my God, you really, oh look, go look at your ex's page. Look, he done moved on with shorty. Now nobody's gonna love you. Everybody leaves you for somebody else. Oh, look at all these girls on IG. They all prettier than you. Look, they got the bag. They got the bomb name. They got the Chanels. Nobody's gonna like you. You can't even afford all of that. Oh, or in order to be liked or accepted, you need to have that, because that's the only way somebody's gonna like you. You understand what I'm saying? Or, oh, nothing ever good happens to you because you're from the hood. Oh, if they ask you how you doing, you better say fine, because nobody can know how you're really struggling. Or you so stupid for making that mistake. You're not pretty enough. You're not smart enough to get into that school. No one will ever love you for you. Or you keep telling yourself, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? Girl, that is you. And that is actually something called your inner saboteur. Once you start to listen to these thoughts that are from your inner saboteur, you start to believe it and you start to act it out. Subconsciously, you start to believe it and you start to act it out. So let me take a thought with you, an example of a good self-sabotager. I was talking to this about someone the other day. I said, listen, when you in your mind believe that you are not worth an opportunity, a relationship, let's say perfect, let's use a relationship. That's the easiest way to, let's say you think you meet somebody and they're amazing. They are better than anything you could have asked, think, or imagined. They're so amazing that you don't feel like you can be good enough for that person. You feel like, you know, they make a lot of money, you don't make enough money to match them. Or they're fully established in their career and you don't have that. Or they're really beautiful and you don't feel, or they're really handsome and you don't feel like you guys match. You know, you just feel like, oh, he is too fine, he is too smart, he is too sophisticated, he is too kind, and boom, 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 your inner saboteur is like, oh, I know he's gonna cheat on me. Oh God, oh, I don't even feel good enough for this man. Like, I don't even feel like I'm good enough. You know what you're gonna do? Low key, you are going to sabotage that relationship. You are going to find a way, and it's not you, your inner saboteur that's working under you is going to find a way to sabotage the relationship, because truthfully told, you don't feel good enough for the opportunity. Whether it's a relationship, whether it's the job, whether it's the keynote, whether it's the business, if you do not feel good enough, your inner saboteur is going to come and sabotage it. That is who your inner saboteur is. So when you get a moment, I want you to take some time. This is another part of your assignment. Take some time to get to know your inner saboteur better. The other day, I did this thing where I wrote out all of my fears. I don't even want to say all the fears that were being presented themselves to me. I don't want to even claim them. And I did this. This was actually Saturday night. I was up late and I just wrote out all the fears. All the fears that my mind and all the things, the irrational thoughts I was thinking. I was like, fear this, fear this, fear this, fear this, fear that, fear that, fear. I had to write it out to see how irrational and silly some of it was. So I challenge you, think about your inner saboteur and think about those thoughts that you are telling yourself that you know are negative, that you know are not you. And some of them you're probably going to have to do some deep digging, because I want to take a guess that most of us are not thinking power thoughts throughout the day. Most of us think carnal. We go by what we see. Our automatic thoughts are not thoughts that are filled with enrichment and good things, because this has to be an intentional practice, where the moment that a thought comes in that is of your inner saboteur, you know it's your inner saboteur, and you can capture it and you can deal with it and you can respond to it. So I were you, we have our girls do a you versus your inner saboteur, and write out all the lies that you hear from your inner saboteur, all the thoughts that you see when you're scrolling on social media, when you are about to go for a new job, a new opportunity. What is your inner saboteur telling you? Because I'm telling you right now, it is a lie. And I want you to go you versus your inner saboteur. Write it out. And I'm sure once you start to write it out, you are then going to see how irrational some of it is. And if I were you, I would go to study in yourself and do some quiet time of reflection and find out what's at the root. What's at the root? What is at the root of some of this thinking? What trauma did I experience? What did I go through? What did I watch? What did I listen to? What conversations were I in that allowed this inner saboteur seed to take root in my life? And I want you to go back to those experiences, and I want you to then start to go and do some work. Do some work and analyze that. Analyze it and start to think about it and start to walk through your healing process and start to check your inner saboteur, which I'll get to in a second, right? So like I said, I'm going through my notes. A lot of this was for Zoom, so I'm skipping over some stuff. So I'm going to give you some steps of how do you break up with and how do you get over that inner saboteur of not feeling good enough. First step is that you got to become fully convinced that you are enough, you are worthy, and you belong. You are enough, you are worthy, and you belong. You are enough, you are worthy, and you belong. You are enough, you are worthy, and you belong. You are enough, you are worthy, and you belong. You are enough, you are worthy, and you belong. You are enough, you are worthy, and you belong. And you are enough, you are worthy, you belong. And why did I repeat that? We learn things throughout repetition. If you think that you're in the saboteur is just going to give up to you because one time you said, you know what, I reject this thought of my inner saboteur. This is a fear-based thought. I don't come into agreement with this. This is a lie. You do that one time, you think your inner saboteur is not going to come back for you. Of course it does. Your inner saboteur is incessant. So I actually have a workshop where we play this out. And I have one student, you know, it's like four, so a circle of four, like maybe four students, a group of four students, and one of them tells the student in the hot seat, she gives 3 thoughts of her inner saboteur tells her, right? And each of the other 3 students represents a thought. So let's say the goal is, I don't know, I want to go to Harvard. And one thought says, I'm not good enough. The other one says, I don't have enough money. The other one says, I don't know, nobody in my family ever went to Harvard. So what the 3 students who are talking to the student in the hot seat start yelling. I have them start yelling and start going hard. I'm like, you be aggressive to her. And the role of the student in the hot seat is to speak back to each one of those thoughts. And no student, the other 3 students who are going to be her inner saboteur, they do not stop until they believe what the student in the hot seat is saying. So the students are going like, oh, that's why you can't have no money. Look, there's no scholarships available to you. And the girl in the hot seat, she's coming up with things. She's like, no, I can do this. I can have financial aid. I can have work study. And until they believe her, that's when they stop. And that is a physical representation of how it is that you need to be with your inner saboteur. You cannot say it just one time, baby, because your inner saboteur knows when you don't believe it. You have to keep saying it and keep repeating it and keep repeating it until your inner saboteur knows, yo, she means business. And let me tell you, once you keep saying it and you keep repeating and you keep saying it and you keep repeating it, you will notice that that inner saboteur is not even there anymore. You're like, gosh, it's been a long time since I've dealt with that thought. But you got to keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. This is not something that you just do one time and think it's just going to happen overnight, okay? So you have to be fully convinced that you are enough, you are worthy, you belong. And you have to learn to be authentically yourself. And what does that mean? To be true to one's own personality, spirit, or character, according to Merriam-Webster.com. And you have to also know that being authentic is also the being worthy of acceptance. Worthiness does not have prerequisites, right? And the prerequisite, we know, is something that you have to, it's something that is unnecessary to an end or to carry out of a function of. So you don't have to be worthy. You don't have to be worthy to do anything, right? You have to know that your worthiness is a divine birthright. A lot of us don't believe we're worthy. That's why we post pictures on Instagram trying to show everybody what move we made, what vacation we went on, what new celebrity we were seeing, and we have to post anything because what we're saying is, oh, look at me, I'm so worthy, I'm so worthy. My life has meaning and validation because I'm going to show everybody how well I'm doing and how well I'm performing. Baby girl, more often than not all the time, more often than not, that is seeking attention because you need validation that your life matters and that you are important. And that is rooted in low self-worth. How do I know that, Miss Maria? Because I'm recovering from that. I need to constantly perform and prove my worth, and I'm validated. I need to constantly work and be busy to show everybody how important I am. And I'm going to show you that, right? That I'm worthy. Worthiness doesn't have no prerequisites. Worthiness is your divine birthright. And you know you struggle with this if you feel like you're worthy once something happens. So I'll be worthy once I finish my education, I'll get into that school. I'll be worthy once I have my TikTok or these flyers. I'll be worthy of my parents' love and approval once I can, get a good job and take care of them. I'll be worthy when I'm in this relationship. I'll be worthy when my GPA is. I'll be worthy when I lose the weight. I'll be worthy when I get my body done. I'll be worthy when my eyelash business, whatever. That is the inner saboteur lying to you. You are worthy right now, just as you are. You want to know why? Because God breathed air into you. That is what makes you worthy. Not how you look, not your grades, not the money in your pocket. Let me tell you something what I learned about life. A lot of the most greatest opportunities are probably going to come when you're not even expecting it. You're like, oh my gosh, I thought I'd be worthy when all of this happened. I thought I'd be worthy, and sometimes even with love. You'd be like, I don't even think right now. Let me tell you, most of the time love comes in your life when you're not looking. When you feel like, oh, I'm not ready yet. A lot of times it's like, psych, you are ready. So I want you to come into the agreement with that your worthiness does not have any prerequisites and you are enough and you already are worthy, right? You already are worthy. And you want to walk as someone who doesn't try to fit in, who knows that she already belongs. And this is something I learned from Brene Brown, someone who doesn't know that they fit. When you try to fit in, what you try to do, you look at the circumstances and you adjust who you are to the room, right? It's like, okay, I assess the situation and I become who I need to be in order to be accepted by the room. But when you know you belong, it doesn't require you to change who you are. It requires you to be who you are, right? And that's a great challenge, to walk up in the room and be like, I don't know how I made it in here. I don't really know. I don't know if I feel good enough, but I know I belong here and I'm not going to switch up who I am. You get what I'm saying? And that doesn't mean that we don't have professional decorum and things like that, but that's the difference between fitting in and belonging. You know that you already belong. All right. So another step into feeling good enough is stop judging yourself. Forgive yourself and show yourself some grace and compassion. Stop being judgmental for your past, current, or future mistakes. Show yourself some grace and compassion. You know what it is to judgment? The judgment means to criticize or condemn someone from a position of assume more of a superiority. Who are you to keep judging yourself? God forgave you. Why you not forgiving yourself? Right? If you often feel disappointed in yourself, you carry guilt from previous mistakes, you tend to take the blame on for previous behaviors. Yeah, this is something when you deal with self-judgment and self-criticism. Forgive yourself for not knowing what you didn't know before you learned it. Forgive yourself for not knowing what you didn't know before you learned it. and ask yourself what the experience came to teach you. And you need to show yourself some more compassion. And compassion is a deep awareness of another suffering. It's knowing that we're all going through something at some point in our lives. And when you invite compassion onto yourself, you know you can be, and when compassion is kindness, mercy, sensitivity into your life, you can then extend it to others. And people who are critical of you are highly critical of themselves. Another step is to tap into being vulnerable. Vulnerability, let me tell you, I don't like being vulnerable. I don't. It's not easy. It's not easy. And I say that especially when you're going through hard times, right? But how can I say this? You can't be courageous without being vulnerable. You can't fall in love without being vulnerable. You can't start a business without being vulnerable. You can't do it. You can't have children without being vulnerable, because they're going to grow and they're going to go into the world. And you're being a vulnerable state because you got to let them go into the world. You know, when you get into a relationship, you're vulnerable. You don't know if that person is going to love you back, hurt you. It's a position of vulnerability, but there's beauty in it, because if you don't allow that, how can you open the door to the beautiful things that life has to offer? I love this definition. Vulnerability is the core of all emotions and feelings. To feel is to be vulnerable. To believe vulnerability is a weakness is to believe that feeling is a weakness. To foreclose on our emotional life out of fear that costs will be too high is to walk away from the very thing that gives purpose to life and meaning. Okay, so vulnerability sounds like truth and feels like courage. Truth and courage aren't always comfortable, but they are never weakness. Vulnerability is never weakness, all right? How does it feel when you're being vulnerable? It feels like you're out of control. It feels like, you know, you're naked, you're exposed. But you know, one thing I learned from Brene Brown is like, we love seeing raw and truth in other people, but we don't like it in ourselves. What we think is courageous and beautiful in other people, wow, that's so beautiful. You told your story, and vulnerability is not telling your business. But vulnerability is the courage in you and the inadequacy in me, right? You're drawn to the vulnerability of others, but repelled by your own. I'm Brene Brown. I love this. She says vulnerability is a great dare from being honest about what career you want to pursue. You know, telling someone you like them, telling someone a school rejected, or how much you're struggling. You know, that's vulnerability. The other day, this is last month, I had to come into, I said, listen, I told my friends, I told someone on my board, I was like, listen, I struggle. I'm overcoming a strong Black woman syndrome. And I'm admitting that I need help right now. I'm dealing with a lot, and can you help me with this? And she was like, sure, no problem. Vulnerability is also mentioning and admitting when you need help. And when you can't do that, you are walking in pride. And you don't know how many people do want to help you, right? So you want to make sure that vulnerability is something that you embrace, when it might be uncomfortable, and it helps you. And you feel relieved, and it's part of the trust building process. Vulnerability is being human. Okay, and another point to start feeling good enough is to practice self-love, right? I hate it. People are like, just love yourself, just love yourself. If people knew how to love themselves, they wouldn't be in a lot of the mess that they're in, right? So loving, to practice self-love is to put into actual application of a use, idea, or belief, or method. Practicing love, self-love, trusting yourself, treating yourself kind and respectfully, being kind and affection towards others, doing it daily as if it were a game or some sort of sport. Let me tell you, a lot of us practice our extracurriculars, our academics, our work more than we practice self-love. You know what? Somebody told me this, and you know, I took this to heart. He said, let me tell you something. Y'all, we get up, we go to work, and whatever our boss does, we do it. Whatever your boss asks you to do, you do it. But when you come home, and this is totally off topics, I'm just sharing because maybe somebody needs to hear this. But when you come home and your man asks you to make him dinner, you pop mouth, and all of a sudden you don't want to do it. But you go to work and you do anything your boss asks you to do. But when you come home to your man, obviously this was a man that was talking to me, he was like, you don't want to do it. He's like, that's not fair. He's like, you go hard for your job. Why can't you go hard for your relationship? I was like, well, I never thought about it like that. And I actually know that Nikki Giovanni has this poem, I believe, about it. But a lot of us go hard. That's just one example. We go hard for our jobs. We go hard for everybody else. And when it comes to you and what's matters to you, you don't know how to go hard for yourself. So go hard the same way you go hard for your job. Come home and love on you. Come home and practice loving on you. That's the only way you're going to win. That's going to make your light shine, right? So how do you practice loving yourself? First, you don't betray or behave unkindly to yourself. I'm just talking about having these beautiful conversations with yourself. Then, one dope idea that one of my interns came up with me last year. Actually, she now sits on my board. She said, she's a board member. And she said, you know, something she does is she practices her love language on herself. I think that's dope. So my love language is words of affirmation. So I actually, if you go on my mirror in my bathroom, it's a slew of postage notes because I speak those out over my life because I need to affirm myself, right? Sometimes we're so waiting for other people to affirm us, and it's okay, right? But we also want to make sure that we are practicing our self-love. If you know your love language is give, buy yourself some gifts. You know what I'm saying? Spend some quality time with yourself. Show yourself some words of affirmation, you know? Take time throughout the day for yourself. You know, let me tell you something. Where I am in my life. And it feels so good. I am using the word no a lot. Let me tell you, pouring into this work for Embrace Her Legacy takes a lot. And I've been doing it for a long time. And I didn't know I was walking myself into burnout. So you know what I do now? I say no. I have said no to so many, to several. And I'm probably going to keep saying no. And that for a couple of weeks. And then I remember, now I get, because when you're in this space of speaking and pouring into other people and keynoting, you know, it's a world, it's a community. And I see why so many of the people, I would ask them, you know, hey, Maria, can you speak? Such and such, can you speak? They just be like, nah, I'm taking a break. I'm not speaking. I'm not taking any speaking engagements for the month of, you know, April, May, June. And I said, I never took it personally. I was like, okay, cool. But now I understand why people have to have boundaries up. Because now I'm in that space. So I was like, let me tell you, I was the person that you could ask me to come speak in Queens, Manhattan, Maryland, whatever. I was going to find a way to get there. Now, I'm like, no. And it's not anything personal. It's that I have to make sure I take care of me. Maria is in self-love mode. Maria is pouring into herself and she's focusing on the things that matter to her. While I love Embrace Her Legacy and while I love pouring into other people, I need to make sure my cup is filled first. So you have to now make sure your cup is filled first and take time for yourself throughout the day. I do not answer phone calls. I keep my phone throughout D&D. I be like, oh, that person can wait. I'll call them back. I'm doing something for me right now, and I don't feel no way about it, right? Another way to practice self-love, be serious about your naps. Live true to your values, what's most important to you. You feel good about yourself. When you tell somebody no, you're like, nah, that's not going to go on my values. And right now, I'm in this space of, you know, certain things that were cool, I was cool with a year ago. Some things I was cool with 6 months ago, I'm not doing right now. I'm like, or excuse me, I don't think I'm ever going to go back to enjoying, right? And I'm living true to my values. And while you may have to mourn some relationships or some people that you used to rock with, you're going to feel good about yourself when you start living true to who you are. I have a journal called the I Did That file. One of the things you can do is I did that. Every day you write down all the achievements and goals you got done for your day. Sometimes it's, I'm so grateful I got through the day without thinking an anxious thought. Or I'm so grateful I just got out of my bed today. Oh, I'm so grateful I finally submitted that proposal. It's your I did that file. So that those times when your inner saboteur tells you you're not good enough or you're not doing enough. My inner saboteur used to love to tell me, oh, Maria, look at you. It's 2 o'clock. You really think you're not going to do anything for the rest of the day? And I would look at my I did that file. I'm like, I think I have done more than enough for the year, for the week. And you know what? Yeah, it might be 2, 3 o'clock and I'm about to watch another episode of Girlfriends. And I don't care because I Did That file shows that I've been busting my tail. So I deserve a break, right? You can exercise, listen to your favorite movie, listen to your favorite music, do a therapy or coaching session, do something kind for somebody else. That makes me really happy. It takes me really happy to get my mind off of somebody else. To get my mind off of myself and put my mind on someone else and do things that makes me feel good, you know. Choosing to speak kind of yourself, taking warm baths and candles, drinking a smoothie, doing just something good to yourself. However you need to practice self-love for you every day. Another way to feel better and to start feeling less is to challenge shame-based thoughts. Shame says something is wrong with you. You know, shame keeps shame is the fear of being lovable. It keeps away by convincing that owning your story will lead people to think less of you. Shame says we're afraid that people won't like us if they know the truth about who we are, where we come from, what we're struggling with. Shame likes to make sure everything looks just right. And this is why shame loves perfectionists, all right? Shame resilience, according to Brene Brown, is the ability to recognize shame, to move through it, maintain worthiness and authenticity, and to ultimately develop courage, compassion, and connection as a result of your experience, all right? So shame needs 3 things to grow. That is secrecy, silence, and judgment. All right. Shame will lose its power when it's broken. And you want to recognize what messages trigger shame for you, right? I remember one time watching Housewives, and I remember there was an issue. They were all sitting at the table. This was recently in Jamaica, and they were having a conversation about foster parents and stuff like that. And one of the women was so offended by the conversation. And it's because that was a shame trigger for her, if you look at it, because she went through the foster care system. So she had she overreacted to the situation, but that was because, you know, that was the wounded little girl inside of her that was speaking up. So you want to know what thoughts trigger shame for you. And there's a difference between guilt and shame. Guilt is I am bad. Guilt is I did something bad. Shame is I am bad, right? So if you feel guilt about something, you can kind of like rectify it, change the behavior. But shame is like, I'm stupid, I'm ugly, I'm a failure, nobody loves me. You want to make sure that you are, you know, dealing with that and dealing with those shame-based behaviors, okay? Another way, number seven, I want you to remember that your worthiness is not in your accomplishments or the approval of others. Gosh, your worthiness, a lot of unlearning we have to do, right? Your worthiness is not in your accomplishments or your approval of others. Because of how you were raised, we can knowingly or unknowingly attach our worth to how other people feel about us, right? When you attach your self-worth to your work or your accomplishments, girl, you've handed it outside of yourself. I've been there before. Right? And let me tell you, the moment you stop performing and the more you go through a season where things are going right, your whole self-worth is starting to be challenged. It's like, you know what I'm saying? And you start to realize, that's when you got to realize you are more than your grades and award or competition, whatever. That's what you do, is not who you are. Regardless of what outcome, you know, you're there to live out your desires that align with your values, and that's what really matters. Your self-worth is not in your accomplishments. It's not in the approval of others. Once you do that, you handed your self-worth and how you feel. That's what's called self-worth. Once you allow it to go into the hands of someone else, you've given it away. A lot of times in shame-based cultures, parents, leaders, and teachers, administrators, they can consciously or subconsciously encourage others to connect their self-worth to what they produce. Number 8, let go of perfectionism because it's a trap. Perfectionism is not the same thing as striving to do your best. Perfectionism is often the belief that if we live perfect, look perfect, act perfect, we can avoid the pain of change shame, judgment, and criticism, it's often rooted in fear. So perfectionists are usually trying to control how people perceive them. It's putting on a facade of perfection. Perfection is at its core about trying to earn approval and acceptance. Is not about self-improvement. Healthy striving is self-perfect. Self-focus is about how can I improve? How can I be better? Where perfectionists are people usually who tend to be raised in environments where, and it's hard because children, you're supposed to go to school and get good grades, but sometimes perfectionists who are often praised for achievements and performances, good grades, manners, people pleasing, appearance, sports, and things like that, then you can adopt this belief system that I am what I accomplish. Goes back to my previous point where it's like, no, that's not your worthiness, right? So then you go into this thinking mode that I have to please, perform, and perfect. Please, perform, and perfect. And that is just leading, gosh, that's just so dangerous because it's leading us into so much burnout, so much overachieving because you feel like you're not enough. And it's like, you are enough. It's not healthy striving, right? Perfectionism is more about what other people would think, right? So to overcome perfectionism, you need to understand that none of us are perfect and everyone is dealing with something. And you have to practice compassion to yourself. And this is through self-kindness, being warm and understanding toward yourself when you suffer or feel inadequate. Okay, rather than ignoring your pain or flagging yourself for self-criticism. You want to common humanity, recognizing that suffering and feelings of personal inadequacy are part of the shared human experience, and being kind to yourself. This is not a big deal. Not everybody cares as much as you think they do. Not everybody's paying as much attention as you think they do. They are. Number 9, let go of what people think, right? I love to tell people this. How other people feel about me is none of my business. That's between you and God. Like, as long as me and God is okay, I don't how you feel about me is none of my business. Okay? Like, I'm not gonna lose any sleep. And too many of us, we give people that power, right? You have to learn how to let go of what people think. Easier said than done, but you are now giving yourself too much power. Let me tell you, not everybody's going to like you all the time. And that's okay, right? And you have to learn to live authentically, right? And that's the daily practice of letting go of who we think we're supposed to be and embracing who we really are. It's the courage to be imperfect, to embrace that you belong, that you're enough, to set boundaries and allow yourself to be vulnerable, kind of wrapping up everything we discussed. It's the courage to tell your story and not being immune to criticism. Like, you could tell your story, not everybody gonna like it. Somebody always gonna have something to say. And let me tell you, I look at social media comments. This is why I take social media breaks often, because social media just shows a lot of the warped way people think. I'm like, where did you hear that? She didn't say that. People can say the most beautiful thing and someone will still find something negative to say. I'm like, ooh, bitter Betties, right? So you can tell your story and you know what? Someone still might criticize it. It'll hurt. But like I said, you don't ever give someone else's opinion that much power over you to change your opinion of yourself. If you are letting someone's opinion of you change your opinion on yourself, then you are struggling with low self-worth. You can't give somebody else that much power. And that does not mean that we don't care about, we don't have some level of care, right? So if one of my good besties is like, nah, Maria, you were being a little arrogant there, you being a little prideful, I know that person loves me enough to pour into my life and she's speaking from a good place, that I'm gonna pay attention to you. But you just a Joe Schmo and you think I have an attitude problem because I asked for what I wanted. Let me tell you something. A lot of people will not like in you what they don't have the courage to do for themselves. So because you don't have the courage to ask for the real table that you wanted at the restaurant, or the courage to ask for the upgrade to the first class, or the courage to ask for the $10,000 keynote, and because I do it and I get what I want, and because you are too scared and your inner saboteur is warring in you, and now you don't like me, that's indicative of your war that you are having with yourself. Don't take that out on me. So sometimes people don't like you because you're doing something that they don't even have they're too fearful and they don't have the courage to do. I said what I said, okay? And let go, number 10, let go of the need to be in control and dance. Be goofy. There are so many shame triggers around vulnerability, about laughing out loud and being goofy. It's like, what will people think? Everyone is watching. Calm down. You look ridiculous. You know, trying to be all cool. It's about minimizing vulnerability. Being in control to manage people's perception. Newsflash. You can't always manage what other people think about you. Right? So that we can feel good enough. Again, handing your self-worth and your self-esteem into the hands of others. Nah, I'm going to be goofy. I'm going to be loud. And if you don't like it, I remember one time we were on vacation. It was a family trip. And, you know, it's a group of black women. I think it was a table, maybe like 12, 13 of us. Maybe like 15. We were rolling deep. I think it was like at least 12 of us at that table. 12, 15 black women. And we were surprising somebody. You know, we are fitting to be loud. So we like, ha ha ha, and we in Jamaica, first night, beautiful. And one of somebody at the table was like, oh my God, everybody's looking at us. And I was like, so what? We are not doing anything but having a good time. And I was like, okay, that's her shame coming out in this conversation. So be you, laugh out loud if that's you, dance, flex if that's you. You understand? I mean, you can't be in control of how other people feel about you. You want to have the freedom to unleash passionate, goofy, heartfelt, and soulful expressions. When you don't, you are betraying yourself. And I'm going to wrap up with these last few points. Always practice the attitude of gratitude. You know, when you are in the spirit of gratitude, you will start to feel better about yourself. Focus on the things you love about yourself. You know what? I'm grateful I'm smart. I'm grateful I could come up with that business plan. I'm grateful that I'm good at cooking. I'm good at math. I'm grateful that people come out and reach out to me and talk to me and ask me for my advice. You understand? Practice an attitude of gratitude so you can start feeling enough. Let go of the need to have other people approve your decisions. When you start polling people, it means that you don't trust yourself. It's okay to desire feedback from here and there, but you gotta have to learn how to trust your own decisions. Let go of comparison, because you might be comparing your chapter 2 to somebody else's chapter 25, especially in this social media. I remember my therapist, this is a couple years ago, I was talking about some of the challenges I was having, and she was like, did those people on social media ever ask to have that much power over you? And I was like, no. She was like, I hope you know that's what you're giving them when you allowing yourself to be compared to their life and make you feel less worthy or inadequate. When she put it like that, I was like, power? I'm giving these people power? Let go of comparison. Everyone, and that's easier said than done. And I know a lot of this stuff is easier said than done. That's why you want to go back and rewatch this. And I want you to trust that everyone has been gifted with what they were equipped to do. You understand? You can't, not everybody's been equipped with my gift. Now we're equipped with my gift, and I haven't been equipped to have yours, right? So why are we comparing apples to oranges? Let go of using productivity and exhaustion as a status symbol of self-worth. I kind of spoke about that. Again, recovering from that. Like, I'm so busy. No. These past couple of days, I'm like, I'm not doing the most. Like, no, I've done the most for a long time. And I have to do the most of me. So in today's culture, we can often attach our self-worth with how busy we are, with our net worth, and, pledge allegiance to the flag of being busy. And sometimes it's just like anxiety waiting to happen. No. Your life you don't have to always be busy in order for your life to be validated or for you to feel important. I'm going to say it again. Your life you don't always have to be busy to prove how important you are. Girl, that is just low self-worth in the making. Like, so you know how confident and strong you got to be as a person to say, nah. And that's not being lazy. That's not what I'm talking about. But it's like, nah, I'm okay. Yeah, I don't have to always be busy. Some people just want to be busy being busy. Are you being busy or are you being effective? If I can find an app that'll cut my time in 3/4 of the time, I'm going to do it. If I could delegate it on to someone else so that they can get it done, I'm going to do it. No, work smarter, not harder. Right? No, your self-worth is not attached to how your net worth or how busy you are. So what happens if you can't work? You start feeling like you're not important, you don't matter because you're not busy? No. Stop working so much and make room for some play. Our bodies need as much rest and play sometimes. Sometimes you just need to schedule a nap. I remember one of our students, I remember for her taking a nap, she would feel guilty. And a lot of times this is actually modeled to us in our culture. Some of our cultures growing up, I know in my culture, I have my aunt, we would see her falling asleep on the couch. We used to be like, go in the room and take a nap. No, I'm not sleepy. I'm not sleepy. It's like in certain cultures we weren't allowed to be sick. We weren't allowed to take naps. And it then introduces this thwarted belief system that if you take a nap, you're weak. If you get sick, you're weak. And as I know, it's called being human. That's what it's being called, right? Most people that I know who live successful, rich lifestyles sleep and sleep well. Lack of no sleep is probably one of the biggest stress, and not sleeping are probably one of the biggest causes of diseases. Whether it's heart disease, obesity, chronic depression, no, sleep and sleep well. Sometimes we could think like being busy and the acquisition of things are going to bring joy and meaning, and that's not always true. And that's why we're afraid to slow down. You got to slow down and just, you know what? You got to do yourself, bringing me to my next point. Do more of the things that bring you joy. Ask yourself what brings you joy and do more of that. I actually did this at the end of last year. And I said, what brings me joy? And I put a whole list. And I realized that one of the things that brings me joy that we weren't able to do for obvious reasons for a long time is going to concerts. Brings me joy. Anybody who knows me knows that I love music. Knows that music is... I can listen to music all day. And I have a certain era of music. Like, I don't really care about none. Not none. I would say 90% of the current music of today. Maybe like 88. I don't really care for these young artists. I'm like, what are y'all saying? And most of it is remakes from our era, which was also remakes from the era before that. So I'm like, anyway. But I realized I was like, you know what? And I put certain concerts on my calendar back in December for this year. I was like, okay, I'm going to that one, right? I'm going to these three. I'm going to these 3 concerts, right? I was like, I like this person, I like that, and I like this group. You understand what I'm saying? I was like, let me tell you, I'm going to see Anita Baker. I'm going to see New Edition. I'm going to see Patti LaBelle, because that's my music. That's what I like to see, right? So I'm doing more things that brings me joy. So you want to make sure that you do more of the things that bring you joy, right? And as I close out, live out your purpose. And what's your purpose? It's when you're using your natural gifts and talents and abilities to serve a human need. What you have been gifted for is not for you. It is actually for other people. And when you're walking in your purpose, it brings so much meaning and joy to your life. When you're using your gifts and talents in service to others, that brings me so much joy. You know, sometimes when I just talk to someone and I feel like, you know, God is sharing, like, you know, share something nice to them and the joy they feel, I'm like, wow, I didn't know I could just be that impactful. It feels good to do that, right? To walk in your purpose and let go. My ninth is point number 19. There was 20 points I went through. Let go of supposed to. A lot of us feel like, oh, I'm supposed to have this by now. I'm supposed to be healed by now. I'm supposed to know what I want right now. I'm supposed to have this house. I'm supposed to go to that school. I'm supposed to be in this type of career. I'm supposed to be making this type of money by now. I'm supposed to be married by now. I'm supposed to have these kids. Let go of supposed to, right? Let go of supposed to. Let go. Who said that you were supposed to, by 21, be a millionaire? maybe that's not in the plan. You know, let go of supposed to and embrace what it is that God really has for you. And finally, if you struggle with feeling good enough, I want you to never forget this. Never forget that you are chosen. You are chosen. You are chosen. What does that mean? One who is the object of choice or divine favor. An elect person selected or marked for favor or special privilege. That's what it means to be chosen. One who is the object of choice or of divine favor, an elect person selected or marked for favor or special privilege. That is who you are. Choice. You could have been someone else's. You understand what I'm saying? You were the select choice on the menu and you have been chosen. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to let us know in the comments below. Like I said, what we got coming next, our next master class will be dealing with the inner saboteurs of fear and doubt. That'll be coming soon. You can follow us on social media. Make sure you're following us here on Instagram at Embrace Her Legacy, on TikTok at Embrace Her Legacy. Subscribe to our YouTube page because this is definitely going to be on our YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. You know, like the video, share the video, share this with people. Share with people who need it. Share it on YouTube. Share it on Instagram. You can text to join our VIP list by texting EMBRACE to 855. Actually, I'm going to have one of our interns, 855-750-1493. You can actually join on our email list join our email list on our link in our bio on Instagram or in the below in our description box on YouTube. You know, you can definitely sign up to attend our free monthly master classes that will now transition them over to IG and teaching them on Instagram and YouTube. If you are between the ages of 14 to 19, you can apply to our Embrace Her Legacy Academy, our social, emotional, personal development and leadership development program. We really equip women to become the fiercest versions of themselves, to achieve confidence and self-confidence, personal development, and career and education and leadership. And you can find more about that more about that program at embraceherlegacy.com/EHL Academy. That is embraceherlegacy.com/EHL Academy, embraceherlegacy.com/EHL Academy. And those who participate and graduate from the program then qualify for our Embrace Her Legacy College Scholarship. We gave away 2 scholarships last year, and we are going to do it again this year. So always tell a friend about us. Share, like, follow, and subscribe. Until next time, I love you all. Have a good night. And if you have any questions, let me know. Bye.